Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Real CFO podcast. I'm Chad Brown. Glad to be here. Glad you're listening. I'm joined by Matt Berthot. How do I pronounce that, man? I didn't
You got it
ask before
right.
we started.
Bertho.
Berthot.
The
All
T's
right.
silent.
Nice. And Matt, we know each other from Artea Group of like-minded business professionals committed to excellence. So I'm excited to have you on and hear more about you and what you do. And because I know just following you in the group, you provide tremendous business or value to business owners and just people in general with your trainings and stuff. So take a minute. Who are you, man? Tell us about Matt.
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Chad. I was telling Chad, I don't get to get on very many podcasts. I find myself helping other people with their podcasts and having people on my podcast. So this is a treat.
Okay.
I am from Kansas. I've lived there basically my whole life, and grew up in a very small town. Mainly was an athlete. Middle of my junior year, my girlfriend broke up with me of 2.5 years, and I had a counselor named Bob Tessman say, "Hey Matt, what do you love?" And I said, "Kylie." And he said, "No, what do you love that you're not doing right now?" And I said, "Well, I like to sing a little bit." He said, "Okay, we're going to enroll you in choir." And I was like, "What?" And so, I was a jock boy, wrestling, football, baseball. I was a state champion wrestler, 4-time state champion team.
Wow.
But I loved singing. I did. It was like a little secret that nobody really knew about. And so in college, I had some opportunities to wrestle in college, and I was so burned out by the sport, and it's a tough sport. So I went all in on music, on voice, on singing. I did not know how to play piano. I did not know how to read music. I didn't know much about anything about that. I could play the drums, but that's about it. And, I went to community college for a year, and I thought I was top dog. I actually won homecoming king at my community college that year, which was bizarre. But then I went to a real university, Friends University in Wichita, Kansas, and I got to be a part of the Singing Quakers, and I got to travel all over the world. My first plane ride was to Italy, and
Wow.
It was incredible, but I had no appreciation for it at 20 years old, 19 years old. But early in my career, I don't think I've ever told this story, but I was thinking about this the other day. I was in band and we were selling cookie dough one year, and I won the whole contest of selling. And my home ec teacher at the time, Dolly Bonfi, I remember she came up to me and she goes, "Matt, how did you sell all those items for band? Like, you crushed everyone. How did you do that?" I was like, "I don't know. I just went," and this was the time we could go door to door, right?
Right.
I just went door to door and, talked to them. And she goes, "I think you're an entrepreneur." And I was like, "What? What's an entrepreneur?" I have no idea what that means. But that little moment planted a seed with me.
Yeah.
In college, I worked at CompUSA. I never had a computer growing up. And so at CompUSA, I made enough money to buy my first computer. And I was lead salesman there within 3 months. Sales has always been in my blood. But mainly it's, what did they need? What did the customer need? And how could I help them? Right. So I took voice lessons in college. I got my bachelor's of music education. Finally, it took me 6.5 years to graduate college because I played a lot of video games. I drank a lot of beer. I partied with the athletes, and it was not very healthy for me. I wrestled at 172 in high school, and by the time I graduated from college, I weighed 272.
Oh, wow.
So food was definitely championed for me. And that's something I'll be talking about in another podcast later. But I had a choice out of college to be a teacher or to go into two companies. One as an internet help desk manager of a little telecom that was doing a DSL internet and dial up, or I was going to work for Ethanol Corporation in Wichita, Kansas, or be a teacher. And I'm a baccalaureate. My spiritual mentor, James Bryan Smith, I was on the campus ministry team there. I was also a music minister at some churches in Wichita. But I'm never going to forget this moment because it changed the trajectory of my life at a baccalaureate speech. He said, the best thing that you can do in your life is help somebody else. And I knew immediately I'm supposed to be a teacher. And I went to Jim's house on his Macintosh computer, and I filled out one application to Winfield High School in Winfield, Kansas, because I got to coach wrestling and football, and I'd get to build a choir program in a high school. And I got the job, and I stayed for 19 years.
Oh, wow.
Built a voice program, was up for Grammy Teacher of the Year. But the coolest part was helping people find their voice, and the systems that I built, not knowing what I was doing, in private voice lessons. I would teach. I had about 40 voice students a week, Chad, on top of my teaching job. And in 2019, my chiropractor, Doug Swanson, said, "Hey, Matt, you need to listen to this guy, Ed Milet. He sounds like you. You need to listen to him." I was like, okay. And you should listen to this guy, Andy Frisella. He has the MFCEO. And it is what you think it is, MFCEO.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. He goes, I think you're really going to like Vaughn too. I was like, okay. So I started listening to these guys, and I was like, wow. They talk like I talk to my kids, like my students. And I was looking for that edge, the level up. And March 7th, 2019, Andy had James Lawrence on his podcast. And Andy was talking about this new program that none of us would finish, that it was going to be super hard. And, it's even going to be hard for him to finish. And I was like, game on, let's go. So I was one of the first people to do 75 hard and finish it. And that program literally changed my life because I didn't read any books before that.
Still a teacher?
Oh yeah, still a teacher.
Still a teacher, still doing your thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then May of 2019, open enrollment came for Arate Syndicate. And at that time, there was the syndicate and there was the accelerator. And, we had a car payment go up that was $397 a month. And, I told my wife at the time, I said, I want to be around people like me. And I applied, and I found out later, because I got to finally meet him, that Ed Milet was actually the guy that went through my application to be an Arate at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I made it, and I was shocked. I was like, holy crap. And so I just started learning and going on the lessons and applying the lessons.
Yeah.
And then they had the first live event in St. Louis in 2019 in October. And I went there. I set my intention. I just want to be present. I have no idea why I'm here, God. Like, I'm just going to listen. I remember one of the first conversations I had outside the hotel. It was in a little circle of some, pretty amazing people. But they started talking about like how much money they were making a month. And I was like, what? Like, they were like, yeah, I pulled in $1 million this last month. Yeah, I'm working on $3 million this month. And I'm just like, please don't ask me. Please don't ask me. And they would ask me what I did. And I said, well, I'm a choir teacher in Kansas, and I teach private voice lessons. But there was this seed in the back of my head with a book that I read called Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza, that there was a phrase in there, energy is frequency, frequency carries information. And this thought entered my brain because in August of 2019 was an incredible life-changing year. But in August of 2019, I traveled with my students, alumni, and a couple adults to London at King's College for my first professional speech talking about transformation magic using Estel voice training in public schools. And so that energy is frequency, frequency carries information thing, I know how to teach that. However, I had no system to teach that. And so I'm walking outside of a CrossFit workout. I'm kind of jumping around right now, but that's
No, you're good. You're good.
I walk outside of a CrossFit workout and I tell my buddy, Sean, I don't know how to teach this like a step-by-step thing. I know how to get people in the flow state. I do it all the time, but I don't know how to teach it. I need like steps. And then all of a sudden it was like God went boop, and downloaded it in my brain. Set your breath work, get in a meditative state, build your energy, visualize a scene, take action. And so I had the framework. But then I had this idea, Sean, I think that this idea is going to completely let me help business professionals, CEOs, presidents, entrepreneurs, how to really get in the flow state. And when they speak, people will see what we want them to see and feel the emotions we want them to feel. I think that this is going to be a big deal in my life. So I already knew that something was going to change. So I go to this live event in St. Louis after London, after all these revelations, knowing that that could be a potential. And I go there and I run in the room. They're playing 90s gangster rap, and I loved it. It was Dre and Snoop Dogg, and I'm rolling in there acting like Billy Badass, just like everybody. And I sit down in my chair, and then a lady that I knew from Canada, Stephanie Van Dam, she knew me from the hashtag 75hard. She turned around, she goes, Matt, I got to tell you something. And when someone says that to you that you don't even know, Chad, it's like, okay, well, tell me now. Like, I'm so interested. Like, what are you going to tell me?
Yeah.
And she said, did you know that Tony Robbins has a voice coach, Matt? I feel like I'm supposed to say that to you. And I was like, holy shit. I know why I'm here. And so Jesse Itzler, Andy, Ed, they start speaking. I start taking crazy notes on every single one of them, on their technique, on their storytelling, on their energy, on their spirit. If I felt what they're trying to say, if I saw the images that they were portraying. And then I reached out to every single one of them and said, let me help you. Jesse Itzler is the only one, and Tony Watley were the only two people that reached back out and said, hey, you know, Jesse actually said, I'll think about this. He never got back with me. But Tony Watley was one of the first people in Arate to give me a shot to just talk to him about it. So the next day I sit down with Dylan Mitchell and Stephanie Van Dam and some other people, and we start mapping out my business plan for helping leaders. And I reached out to everybody I met. I said, just give me a shot. Let me get on a call with you. There was one person that really gave me a shot to get on a call with them, and that was Nathan Mansfield, who is at the time, he was the CEO of Strong Physiques in San Antonio, Texas. And he got on the call with me. I showed him what I can do with craft, which is voice technique, artistry, storytelling, and performance magic, getting people to feel what we want them to feel and see what we want them to see. And I showed him all the stuff. I took him through the intention steps. I got him to the flow state. And at the end of the call, he looked at me and he goes, he had his hat on backwards. He had a tank top on. He was in his car. And he goes, holy shit. I go, what? He goes, man, I want to be honest with you. I just took the call out of courtesy because I was just being nice. I thought you were full of shit. I'm going to hire you. And I was like, what? And he hired me. And that was my first client. And now it's my full-time job
Wow.
in 2025.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let's go back though. Like, so you help people get into a flow state, kind of focus their energy and get them to storytell. I mean, those are all different kind of pieces. It's not, hey, you can be good at one, you can be good at two, but like all of it. How did you going from wrestling, stud in high school to athlete to joining the choir to your college, being involved in the ministry a little bit to actually putting that all together? I mean, while you're doing it, you probably thought it's just who I am, it's what I do. But when you look back on it, how were the pieces like all connected? And you said, you know what, this is a powerful thing that people need. How do you think you were blessed with that? Or I mean, was it?
Well, my whole life, Chad, I've been very intrigued by the supernatural and by God, by the gifts of the Spirit. And I've always been very connected to that. When I would listen to people speak or hear them sing or even be around them, I'd be able to kind of sense what they need and and see what they could be. And not only that, see what they could be and then help them get there. I taught Sunday school, preschool when I was a junior and senior in high school. And I'd have these kids standing on their tables and their chairs singing Jesus Loves Me at the top of their lungs, just being maniacs and running around the room and, making these Bible stories really come to life for them in a way that the other teachers that were teaching first, second, third, fourth, fifth grade would come down to my room and knock on my door and say, Matt, you have got to get them chilled out. They are being too loud. When they were just being worshipful and praising God and doing it what I always thought was the right way. And that mentality did not stop in high school. I got these kids, 14 to 18 years old, to get to a point mentally and physically and spiritually that they were so elevated that people would tell me by the time they're juniors and seniors, they're like little gods and goddesses on stage. I would have people come to these concerts going, I cannot believe this is a high school. This is insane, like incredible. But it's because of the framework that I developed, Chad, over 20 plus years of teaching people one-on-one, like we're talking right now. And I've found a code for me to crack, the code that works. And it's constantly evolving.
Yeah. So what I love about this is like, you didn't know what you were developing. You weren't creating a business. You weren't doing anything. It's just, you found that you had this natural skill and realized that that people had natural problems with it. Right. Yep. So you were able to connect the dots. And I love that, because you're not chasing dollars. You're not chasing anything. It's just, you had this gift, whatever it was, and now you're sharing it with other people. So transitioning from the choir, the high school, the ministry, and then you identify, hey, this would work with CEOs, business leaders, entrepreneurs. Hey, Tony Robbins has one. Mm-hmm. How do you answer this first? Why do you feel it's important for leaders, entrepreneurs to obtain this skill?
Because you and I have sat in speech and we've watched speeches and we've watched people that are leaders that are fake, phony, that are not connected to their spirit and soul and body in a way that we can trust. And my gift that God has blessed me with is for me to help Chad and say, okay, Chad, who are you supposed to be? Who are you really supposed to be? And we're going to dig on that, Chad. So what do you love more than anything in the world? What makes you tick? What are you excited about in life? What are your purposes in life? Like father, husband, teacher, CPA, what are your other purposes? And then, the ultimate question, why is Chad on earth? Why in this time and space is Chad on earth? And that's the beginning of the work. All right. That's where we start. And so then it's categories that I have found necessary in my teaching to help business professionals and leaders understand where they're at. So 1 to 10, 1 is least, 10 is max. Mental intelligence, physique, nutrition, health, fitness, sleep, spiritual, energy, connection to God, emotional, how do you handle stress, anxiety, depression? How do you show love, kindness, and generosity? Abundance mindset, creativity, authenticity. How do you show up in the real world every single day as your authentic, real self that you're supposed to be, not who the world wants you to be? And the last one is action. And so I get my clients to talk to me about where they're at across that scale. And I'm able to go, okay, Chad, I see in this category that you're low, and in this category you're low. This is what I need you to do. And the reason why those are important in voice is because this is our instrument. This is our instrument. And if this is out of shape physically, if our mental intelligence is not being, stimulated with books or podcasts or journaling or writing, any of those categories that are low, my job is to help Chad and other business leaders be 8, 9, 10 across the board in those categories. So if you're 8, 9, 10 across the board in those categories, how are you going to show up? You're going to be confident. You're going to connect with people in a deeper way. It was funny. I was talking to one of my clients. He was in Italy at a dentist convention. And this happens a lot where men or women that I'm working with will have their spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend come on the call eventually. And my client actually was talking to me, and we go deep in my conversations. We just do. It just happens. And he turned around to his wife and he goes, I told you this effort goes deep. And I was like, yeah, that's just what we do, man. But it's important because these are the conversations I want to have, Chad. I don't want to just have surface crap conversations that anybody can have. I want to help people really dig deep to find out who they really are and how to express that to the world in a way that is authentic and genuine and leaves them feeling fulfilled when they speak, instead of, I didn't really say what I wanted to say. So it's important for leaders to do the work with me, because most of us as leaders are living half lives in the way that we express ourselves. And especially alpha men and women, most of them are taught to be very stoic and don't show emotion, which I say that's horse shit. I saw a post the other day about Lord of the Rings, the movies,
Okay.
and even the way that the men are portrayed in Lord of the Rings. These are men that have emotion, that are fighters, that are warriors, that still show compassion and show emotion and cry. And two of our leaders, Ed Milet and Andy, we've seen them show great emotion when they speak. Yeah. And here's the main point about that, Chad. If as leaders we don't connect emotionally to the words that are coming out of our mouth, if we don't connect emotion to that, everybody will forget what comes out of our mouth.
When you say connect emotion to it, you're talking like I'm communicating, I connect emotion to it. Do you mean, is that kind of aligned with, do you really believe it? Are you just saying it to accommodate someone or to feel superior, or I don't know.
So
What do you
let's
mean by exhibit that?
yeah, so let's test it out, Chad, right
Sure.
now. What do you love more than anything in the whole world?
My family.
Okay. What about your family do you love more than anything?
That they're there for me, not just my wife and kids, but my mom, my deceased father was. We have a very close family. You know, we're connected. We're still get together, that sort of thing. And I feel in the absence of my father that I'm that guy, right?
Give me a memory that encompasses that love.
That's a tough one. You know, support coaching my kids' baseball team, being involved in their activities.
Well, let's go back to dad.
Oh, to dad?
Give me a memory that makes you want to be a better father for your kids, to want to coach baseball.
Because my dad was a good father to me. He was a very hard worker. We had this conversation at church the other night. It's interesting. We're talking about it today. You know, one of the things, he was a great provider. He was he lived honorably with integrity.
Mm.
He was there, but not always present, though. Right. I
Okay.
learned by his actions, but he didn't, I guess, nurture me the way, like the rules of the land, like the pathway. He
Mhm.
tried, I think, but he was kind of reserved to
Mhm.
himself. He led by example. But some things to consider in life and that sort of thing. Growing up, he didn't do so. Um, you know, and I think I've followed that same path with my
Mm.
kids.
Mm.
Like not teaching them all the lessons that I've learned, all the failures, mistakes, and everything. Is and how do I do that? How do I now become to do that? And that was a conversation we had in our men's study the other night regarding manhood and fatherhood. So, but you know, with my dad, he was sick, COPD for a number of years, and I kind of lifted up the bootstraps and handle things around his house and did things
Mm.
for him and was there for my mom who was his caregiver
Mm.
and yeah, I don't know that I kind of rambled on a lot.
No, that's good.
But,
I got more. We're gonna keep going.
you got more? Oh, we're gonna go on. All right.
Yeah. You said something really powerful, which is you recognized his strengths, but you also recognized what you can work on for your kids, which was presence. And that is that's what I've been working on, because
Yeah.
my father was a lot like that. So I want you to anchor something. You think back to when that first kid was born. In that moment when you see that kid's face and it comes out for the first time. And you feel that love that it just overwhelms you. Because I remember that moment for me. I was like, I didn't think I could love anybody more.
Right.
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 And so now, Chad, feeling that love that you feel, I'd like you to tell me what Chad Brown does for a living. But don't lose that love that you feel right now.
What I do for a living? I'm a CPA. I help small, mid-sized business owners in the area of their bookkeeping, accounting, CFO level services, business strategy, tax strategy, and compliance. That's what we do.
And why do you do that?
Uh,
Why is that important to you?
because I think, you know, from a holistic standpoint, business owners are good at what they do, but sometimes lose sight of those underlying things that are really important with the long-term value of their business, their financial well-being. So our focus, whatever service it might be, we can handle all of it or just pieces of it, you know, is to optimize the growth and financial well-being of those we serve. And not only from a standpoint of the debits and credits and the tax credits and deductions and that sort of thing. It's like truly optimize the growth. That's both personal and business growth of those we serve. So we want our clients to be better humans, to stress less, to have,
So zoom out a little bit. Does it give business owners presence and more time with their family if they do it right with you?
100%.
So you could use that also as a story. So, and this is how I help business professionals. I'm just kind of
Okay. Yeah. No, I get it. I like it.
So you would talk about your relationship with your father, and you talk about your relationship to your kids as a father, and you talk about why it's important that you have all your ducks in a row, that you have help in your business to make sure that you have everything tied up so that you can go coach baseball, so that you can be there for your mom when she was taking care of your dad. And if you tell us that story, Chad, we're going to sign up with you every time. Because it shows us that you're
personalizes it.
Well,
like, there's value behind it.
Right. And you said it to me, you said, Matt, I can tell you're not chasing money. You're chasing people. You're helping people. And what did Jesus tell us to do? Fish for people.
Right.
And it's really cool that you were talking about this same thing at church. You said last night?
Tuesday night, actually.
Tuesday night?
Tuesday night in the men's group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that's maybe God knocking on your door saying, hey, there's something to this, Chad.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. I mean, it's very powerful. Just that I'm assuming there's many more steps beyond that exercise that we just went through, but it's very easily to see how those dots are connected. And like, hey, there's a story with everything. You just got to connect it right to some real meaning and emotion and tie it. No, I love it.
Well, I think people don't understand that every human on earth has a unique story to them. They have their own adventure, their own story. My job is to help people like Chad go, hey, Chad, what happened in your life, man? Like, do you understand that's not normal? And people always look at me, well, what do you mean it's not normal? Because to Chad, it's normal.
Right.
But to the rest of the world, it's extraordinary. It's like, whoa, what happened? What, are you serious? That actually happened? So those kinds of moments happen in my one-on-one coaching all the time. And then we get to take these moments and really make them a part of the presentation. Whether it's a potential new client for you and your firm, Chad, or you have to talk at church, or you have to talk to the board, or you have to, it's a way to humanize, which is what we want. We want to be able to connect with people. And if I'm just getting stats and figures and what you can do for me on my bottom line or whatever, lots of times we don't connect with that. What we connect with is somebody that actually cares, like Chad, somebody that actually wants to help us.
It's interesting you bring that up. I was just on a call right before we jumped on here. And we're in the CPA world. I kind of laid out the 4 pillars that we focus on: bookkeeping, CFO, tax strategy, compliance, filings, that sort of thing. So I get on the call and this happens 90% of the time. I said, why are we here? Right? I mean, what prompted you to connect with me? And more times than not, probably 8, 9, 10, it's either one of the top, one of the top 2, 75% top reason. Communication. I emailed my guy in mid-April. I didn't hear back from him till mid-May. And I always tell people, I said, listen, there may be better CPAs out there. accountants, firms, whatever. What we try to do is provide certainty to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know everything. We might not be the right fit for each strategy or where you're at in business. You may outgrow us, but one thing we do and we're proud of is we communicate with a sense of urgency, and we communicate the truth.
Yeah.
We either can or can't help you, right, internally. But I have resources outside that I can bring in to do that if you've outgrown us or whatever. There's levels to this. So, and it really, you can see a connection with people. And then we talk about debits and credits and what
Yeah.
they're doing, right? No, so I love it. I need to do more of that. And I think most business, like, chase the people.
Yeah. The value is in, like I learned from that baccalaureate comment from my first spiritual mentor, Jim. The best thing that we can do in our life is help somebody else.
Mhm.
So like my 4 questions: what do I love more than anything in the world? Helping people. That's it. Number 2, what gets me excited? What makes me tick? Watching someone like we've had on this call today, that light bulb goes off.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, whoa, I get it. I love those moments. Like, love those moments because it's a light coming on.
Right.
That's what we're supposed to do, is shine our light. Number 3, what are my purposes? I'm a father, I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, I'm a healer, I'm a helper, I'm a guide, I'm a shepherd, I'm a speaker, I'm a singer, a musician. You know, there are multiple purposes that we have, not just one. And then why am I on earth? To help people align and connect their body, their soul and ego, and their spirit together to come out and say hello. That's why I'm on earth.
That's amazing.
And,
That's good. That's good.
it took a while. It took a while for me to get to that point.
Yeah, I don't know if I have all those answers. I tell you what, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to replay this call and take every category that you just listed and say what are mine, because that's extremely important. And again, I go back to men's group the other night and the value of this group, just like the value of Arte being in there around like-minded individuals, some wealthier than you, some not as wealthy as you, some older than you, some younger than you. There's a mix. So these that are wealthier than you want to support you to bring you up to that level. You do the same for the ones below you, and it just works. Same with the men's group at church. We've got 70-year-olds and we've got 20-year-olds, and most of us that are probably 35 and older get kids, families, and everything, because it's about manhood and authentic manhood. Is dang, I wish I knew about this before, but it's just in the conversations that we have, we understand that, hey, that makes sense. I've never really taken what we just did in terms of, the story, like with the client and the communication and the certainty, and connected that on every call. It's just something that I say sometimes, but it's really, now that you can be intentional about it, and that intention, one, makes you better, and in turn makes others better, because you actually do show that you care, whereas some just want to make a sell. I think on this last call I just had, I think I almost tried to talk her out of scheduling a follow-up appointment. But anyway, she scheduled it. But
that's awesome.
But anyway, that's kind of where we're at. So one final question for me. With that being said, that younger generation, or when I was, 20 years old, just jumping into college or career or whatever it may be, a lot of folks don't know what they don't know, right? So how can we help educate the younger generation that's coming into this, that might not wait till they're 48 years old to light bulb, right? to do this.
Yeah.
And do you have, your social where they can follow you
Yeah.
and learn and see and say, at least I understand and know there's something out there that I could at least consider, right?
So, Voice by Matt on Instagram, Voice by Matt on YouTube. You can follow me on Voice by Matt on Facebook. I have a webpage, voicebymatt.com. You know, what I want to say is, Chad, this is full circle of the conversation. You said, Matt, you did all these things, and all these things weren't the one thing that you're doing now. How in the world did that work? And it's been a very scary, lonely journey for 6 years, 7 years almost now. And I just had a lot of faith in God that, okay, I'm just going to keep listening to you, and I'm going to show up, I'm going to serve, and we're going to figure this out. And so what I want to say about that is this: for everybody that's younger, or even people that are in their 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s, if you look at the whole map of your life, they're just legs of your life. All right. So, like wrestling, football, baseball, playing guitar a little, playing piano a little bit, harmonica, um, you know, Boy Scouts, or, trips, high school, college, girlfriends, um, traveling, SC Telecom, CompUSA, Ethanol, campus ministries, music ministries, um, spiritual deep dives into the Bible and the Gnostic books of the Bible and different spirituality things all through my 20s, and just trying to figure out who the crap I am. Realizing, oh my God, I have to lose weight. I bet I'm going to start running every day. These are all legs of your life.
Right.
All right. And so as we get older, if you look at all of the most successful people in the world, as we get older, naturally, if we stay curious, that's the key word. If we stay curious about the things that we love, that give us joy, like I know you love boating. If we are curious about those things, I love good sound. I love technology.
Right.
If I'm curious about those things and I don't have shame in it, and I start to understand the curiosity and go down the rabbit hole, and I'm just like, because these are years of life. Like, these are not just like a month of wrestling. That was like age 5 to 18. These were years of my life, but these were legs of my life. But as we get older and we start to let it happen, this starts to happen, where all of these legs start to combine into who you really are and what value you can really give the world, which is what I'm doing every day now. And every day it evolves. Every day it grows when I go down the curiosity rabbit hole of, I need a coach. I need a spiritual coach. I need a mentor. Okay, Matt, here's Gene Early. He's been my coach since November now. And he's teaching me all about the spiritual essential self and core identities and counter identities. He's an executive level C-suite coach that I get to work with. And he's 76 years old, and he helped start NLP in Europe.
Oh, wow.
He's literally teaching me everything. And in return, I am extracting all the information out of him and making it more clean and simple in his delivery, which is another thing that I do. But I say that because my curiosity of spirituality and my gift of spirit and energy, that has always been in my life since I was a little boy. I just didn't know. I didn't know what it was. I had no idea what it was. And now people want that part of me that unlocks people's potential and really transforms them into light, into who they really are. But all that happened with the vehicle of voice.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Yeah, it's amazing. That's I love it, man. Good stuff. Listen, there's tons of value here, and it really, they're not all deep conversations, but I think this one went deeper than most, and it's really something that I think folks have to pay attention to. And so, what is their story? What are these things that they truly passionate about? Where's their heart? Where is their purpose? And be intentional about it. And I think this episode, especially folks who hear it, will start thinking, and
Good.
then they'll realize there's something out there, and that they can be intentional about following it or figuring it out or being curious, as you say. So, Matt, you mentioned earlier where they can find you. Any parting words for our guests?
Yeah, don't be afraid to face your fears and your pains that you're going through and the pains and fears of the past, because that is your ego just trying to tell you the opposite of what it really is. So for instance, growing up in a family, very middle class, we went bankrupt. Growing up, my mom and dad didn't have the money to buy new clothes. I've had to work a lot on lack, and this work that I've been working on, the lack is an ego fear, because the essential self, the spiritual self, when I asked a question to that part of me, the God part of me, is it true that I'm in lack? It's like, no, you're abundant. You're always abundant. And so I just want to leave people with that, is the negative thing that you're going through is just your ego screaming, and it's the opposite is true of your essential self, your spiritual self. And when you flip it, you're going to be able to stay in spirit more.
Love it. Good stuff, Matt. Appreciate it. Great
Yeah, man.
conversation. I'm sure we'll connect again.
Oh yeah.
Appreciate you guys joining.